What if I told you that the most important school exam in the world is happening right now, and India is not even showing up? The world's most respected test of school education, which is called the Program for International Student Assessment or PISA, began in March this year. 90 countries are on the list, including China, Vietnam, and even some of the most poorest nations in the world. But India? We are sitting this one out. And not for the first time either. We haven't touched PISA in 16 years. And the last time we did, which was back in 2009, the results were, well, embarrassing. Out of the 73 countries, India ranked 72. Only Kyrgyzstan did worse than us. Ever since, the country has been quietly working behind the scenes to fix the education system. No noise, no announcements, just a slow and steady effort to modernize how millions of our students are being tested. And this effort has a name: Parak. It is an ambitious government body which is trying to bring together all of India's 69 school boards on the same level and align with global standards. But can a country as massive and diverse as ours really move away from rote learning and textbook cramming to a system that values real world problem solving and critical thinking? And more importantly, why is this exam such a big deal anyway? In today's episode, we will unpack India's complicated relationship with PISA, what went wrong, what is changing, and why, despite all the efforts, India might still miss the mark. Welcome to Daybreak, a business podcast from the Ken. I'm your host Nigda Sharma, and I don't chase the news cycle. Instead, every day of the week, my colleague Rahil Philippos and I will come to you with one business story that is worth understanding and worth your time. Today is Monday, the 5th of May. PISA is conducted every 3 years by the OECD, or the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. And it is not your usual school test. PISA does not ask students to recite definitions or solve 100 algebra problems. Instead, it measures how well 15-year-olds can use their knowledge in real life situations. Think of it like this: PISA tests your ability to think, not just your ability to remember. And over time, it has become the global gold standard, almost like a benchmark for 21st century skills. Governments, education ministers, and even employers pay attention to these rankings. So, when India bombed the test in 2009, it hurt. India had actually handpicked 16,000 students from Tamil Nadu and Himachal Pradesh to take the test. They were supposed to represent the country's best, but even they could not keep up. Meanwhile, China, also first time participant, topped both science and maths. Other Asian countries like Singapore, South Korea, and Japan were already dominating the charts. So, how did India explain its poor performance? Officials blamed a quote unquote cultural disconnect. They said the test was not suited to Indian students, but that excuse did not hold up. Because once a country joins PISA, it actually helps to set the questions. Countries translate and adapt them to fit their local context. So India could have shaped the test to fit its culture if it had stuck around. Instead, we bowed out. But behind the scenes, things have been moving. India began quietly working to change how its students were being assessed. In 2017, it changed its own National Achievement Survey to resemble PISA. And in 2020, you'll remember, the government launched the new national education policy calling for a major shift to holistic skill based learning. That same year, a new autonomous body called Parak was born under NCERT. And its job? To bring all 69 of India's school boards together. Not to clone them, but to benchmark them and move them away from rote learning to applied learning. Indrani Bhaduri, who heads Parak, put it this way: equivalence does not mean cloning. We are not talking about uniformity, but about benchmarking the best practices. So, how is Parak going to go about with these ambitious plans? Stay tuned to find out.
Ever since the collapse of EV ride hailing startup BlueSmart, the question on everybody's mind is who will replace it? Hi, I'm Rahel, the co host of Daybreak. I'm briefly interrupting this episode to tell you about our other podcast, 2 by 2. In the latest episode, my colleagues Rohin Dharmakumar and Praveen Gopal Krishnan are joined by the co founder and CEO of another ride hailing app called Chauffeur to answer just that question.
And I must say, it's really important to qualify that question. When we ask who will be the next Blue Smart, we are not asking who will be the next company to be stuck in a financial crisis and investigated by SEBI. In fact, if you set aside the details of the financial scandal, what's left is the big question of who or what will fill Blue Smart's shoes and what happens next.
Um, so I don't think there's going to be one player that is necessarily going to be the next Blue Smart in that sense of providing comfortable, clean, green ride experience. But there should be quite a few that come up to or will take this opportunity to fill that gap.
And one of them will be Chauffeur?
To listen to the full episode, search for the 2 by 2 Premium Podcast on Apple Podcasts or the Ken app. The links will be in the show notes. And with that, let's get back to the episode.
Parak is bringing in global experts. In 2023, it selected the US based educational testing service, the same group behind TOEFL and GRE, to help redesign Indian assessments. And now it is going state by state. It is holding teacher workshops, distributing new question paper templates, and encouraging boards to ask questions that require students to think, not just to remember. Here is an example. A CBSE board exam in 2019 asked, what are the three main features of a Rabi crop season? But a PISA style question would probably show you a picture of two hills. One is greener, and the student's job is to figure out why using science, logic, and evidence. So, you get the difference? The goal is clear. By 2026, India wants all school boards to shift to application based question papers. And some progress is actually being made. In February this year, CBSE board exams had half of their questions based on application. Even the CISE board, which runs the ICSE exams, plans to reach 50% application based questions by 2027. But there is a catch. In India, education is a concurrent subject under the constitution, which means both the central and the state governments have control over it. So, no matter how well Parak plans, it is the states that will decide how much to implement. And they are not always on board. For example, Tamil Nadu backed out of Parak's workshops in 2024. It had disagreements with the broader national education policy. Other states like Assam tried to adopt new formats, like introducing 50% multiple choice questions. But the rollout was rushed, teachers did not get proper training, and many ended up just helping students memorize the new formats. And then there is also the issue of funding. Parak tries to incentivize states by offering extra money for teachers' training and question bank development. Last year, Haryana received 50 lakh rupees and Jammu and Kashmir got 16 lakh rupees. But smaller, undersourced boards are still struggling to catch up. And at the heart of it all is something that is harder to fix than policy: attitude. Many teachers and exam setters, especially the senior ones, simply do not want to change. They've been doing things a certain way for decades, and shifting to a new system, even if it is better, is just uncomfortable for them. And that is where our country finds itself today. Despite all the workshops, policies, and pilot programs, we missed the 2025 PISA. And it's not looking ready for 2028 either. The Education Ministry has not made a final decision yet, but insiders say that politics might also be playing a role. The last time India was gearing up to take the test, elections were just around the corner. If the results came back low, it would have not looked great. So India pulled out again. Officially because of COVID? Unofficially, it was because of timing. So, what now? There is no doubt on how capable Indian students are. But without the right system to support real learning, they will keep being tested on facts rather than their ability to think. Parak is trying to change that, but it is up against tradition, resistance, and a complex web of state politics. So, whether it will succeed by 2026 or at all is still unclear. So, here is a question that I want to leave you with. Is India willing to flatten its educational diversity for the sake of global validation? Or should it be building a system that works on its own terms while still preparing students for a changing world? I would love to hear your thoughts on this one. So write to me on WhatsApp or send me a voice note at 89711 I'll repeat that again, 89711 Thank you for tuning in and catch you tomorrow.
Daybreak is produced from the newsroom of the Ken, India's first subscriber-focused business news platform. What you're listening to is just a small sample of our subscriber-only offerings. A full subscription unlocks daily long-form feature stories, newsletters, and podcast extras. To subscribe, head to theken.com and click on the red subscribe button on top of the Ken website. Today's episode was hosted by Snigdha Sharma and edited by Rajiv CN.